The CPU socket replacement is a relatively difficult procedure. It takes a while to get a hang of it. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. And most importantly, you have to find an optimum profile for each board, essentially. Boards come different. Some boards will be thicker, some will be thinner, some have more copper on this side, some have more copper on this side, some have 6 layers, some have 8, 10, 12 layers, some have just 4 layers. It all depends on the power that the board delivers on the core. As you can see, this one has very few coils because this is 1151 socket, right? So relatively old socket, so you're not going to be able to power a high-end CPU on this board. But even after years of doing this, you can still basically fail, and it's not exactly your fault. What happens with these boards, so this is, it still has PS2, right? We did this board on the, I don't remember, either on stream or there was a video for it. I think there was a video for it. So after removing the board, because what happened with this one, I shipped it back to the customer and it doesn't post. So I figured, okay, ship it back. I'll just charge you for shipping and let me take a look. Because oftentimes the PCH just needs to be reflown after this procedure. Because we're heating this side of the board, so this side will be bending slightly, depending on how it's held. And sometimes you can develop just cracked solder under PCH. So normally what I tell people, just press on it and see if there is a difference. And oftentimes when you press on it, it will post, or at least you see that there's a difference. Maybe it still doesn't post, but you see different codes on the postcard. Now this one does nothing on the postcard. 00 or FF, I don't remember. Basically no changes. None of the LEDs for CPU, DRAM and all that, none of them light up. So that kind of suggests that either PCH is not working or the CPU is not working. One of those two, essentially. I mean, there could be some other faults, but... So what I did, I reflown the PCH, I reflown the socket, just to make sure, because this is Foxconn socket, original Foxconn. It has the actual Foxconn logo on it. So they require a slightly higher temperature. So I gave it my Foxconn profile, which it goes to 10 degrees higher than my universal profile. But after removing the board, I'm not sure if you'll be able to catch it, but it flexes a little bit. Not that much. I've seen worse. Especially these boards for 1151, the thin boards. If you do the procedure, I don't know, say 4, 5, maybe 6 times, the board comes out like a paper. It's flimsy like a paper. So they can survive only, it is estimated that the maximum number of cycles is 7, but I don't think you can get to 6 cycles and the board's still working, especially this one. Now the newer boards, especially the AM5, that's what we do the most, after removing from the machine, it's rock solid. You won't be able to bend it. And that's how we know that, yeah, we didn't overheat it. Even though that you see on the footage that the board flexes, right? This whole area just kind of bends a little. This is fine because it's expanding metal. There's nothing we can do with that. Some people recommend counteracting that with installing the board so it doesn't flex. I have a few methods of just holding it closer to the socket, and that also reduces flexing. But some flexing will always appear because this is metal heating up. There's no way around the laws of thermodynamics. If you heat up the metal, it expands. There's no way we can, nothing we can do with that. So one way of doing these boards, the flimsy ones, would be to heat up the entire board evenly. But that carries additional risks. You don't want to heat up the entire board to 210 degrees like we do in this area, right? We just want to heat up this area because that's where we work, right? We don't want to heat up the rest. If you heat up the entire board, depending on the board obviously, but you're risking losing some components on the back, you're risking, especially when you're working on it, you just tap something on the board and it'll move because it's at the reflow temperature. So I don't recommend heating up the entire board. The other way of countering that a little bit is to just heat it up slowly. So there's you will notice on my last video the difference in flexing when I work on the first board that is slowly preheated and the second board which is rapidly preheated, which means I put cold board on the hot heater and I just start preheating to 210 degrees. So this board, this part of the board will reach 210 while this side will be relatively cold. If you preheat slowly, so say you set it to 120 degrees and you keep it for 20 minutes, then you set it to 160, 180 and so on, slowly upping the temperature, let the entire board heat up. That produces better results, and that's usually how I do it, especially when I do it for the customers, right? When I get the single board for the socket replacement. And that's what we did on this one. But sometimes this happens. It is bending. I can feel the tension, basically. I don't know if you can see that, right? It just switches from one position to the other position. That tells me that it has been maybe not overheated per se, but it just doesn't like being heated in one spot. So now, let me see if I can demonstrate it to you, what exactly happens. We have a stencil here. The stencil is, actually it is a little bit bent. Let's get another stencil. Okay, this is the stencil for SSD, right? And it is nice and flat. So now, what I'm gonna do, Stencil shows you that perfectly fine, because how do you reball? You want to bring the temperature of the entire stencil at the same time. You don't want to heat up a particular spot, because what's going to happen? Let me see if I can show you. So I'm going to just place it over here, and I'm going to heat it. Let's wait for the temperature to grow. We're going to do 380 at 79. That should be okay. And I'm just gonna heat it in the center, only in the center. And you can already see how it's lifting. Yep. Now, well, it fell down, but let's heat it a little more so it deforms permanently. Now, when I say permanently, it doesn't mean that we cannot fix it. We will still fix it, sure, but it will deform and stay deformed. There. So now it is deformed. So it is wobbly, right? So now to fix that, what do you do? It's still a little warm. You want to heat up the entire stencil evenly. What I do for that is I use a preheater like this. I put it on the preheater so it evenly heats up. You can also see that it is also bending into two directions, just like our board, and it's flipping from one side to another side. It's kind of hard to see, but just trust me on that. Right? Because it has been heated up in the center, the metal expanded, and it just deformed. But that deformation, at least with stencils, because I've had the most of that with stencils, you put it on the preheater like this, right? It's not sitting flush because it's bent. You heat it up. Then what I do, I heat the edges. Once it's to the temperature, say 260 degrees on the preheater. It goes a long way on this preheater. 260 will easily reflow pretty much anything that fits on the heater, and heat it evenly on the sides. And now I can, since I didn't connect the preheater, what I can do is just heat it like this. Probably I shouldn't be using nozzle, but as you can see, or no, you cannot see, but it's lifting in the center over here and over here, right? There's a gap in the center because it's deformed, right? So now if I heat it up relatively slowly, it actually doesn't need to be very slowly, just evenly. Once it's up to the temperature, it should flatten out by itself. Sometimes you hear that it makes a sound, like a clicking sound, when it returns to its position. It goes click and it's suddenly straight. But the trick is to just heat it up evenly, all of it. Okay, it looks flat now, so now let's let it cool down slowly. Right, don't touch it, don't press on it, don't try to cool it down yourself, let it cool down normally to the room temperature. And I can see that it's flat on all sides, and once it cools down you want to touch the middle so you don't feel it, so there's no bulge in the middle. Okay, it cooled down enough that I can touch it, no bulge in the middle, and every corner is sitting, and in the middle the same thing. It's perfectly flush, so the stencil is repaired. Now, can you do the same thing with the board? No. I mean, I know some people do recommend that it does work, and it could work, but the difference between a stencil, a basically sheet metal, one uniform material, is not the same as the entire board. There are different layers of copper in different places. Without actually knowing where the copper is, because we can only see the top layer and the bottom layer, we don't see what's inside. So without actually knowing where that thermal mass is and where to actually heat, it's very risky. That's why I don't recommend counteracting that. Essentially, if you remove it from the machine and you see this little flex, this board just basically doesn't like socket replacements. It puts enormous strain on the board to replace the socket, because we have to heat it up to really high temperatures, not something that the board usually sees or sees ever during its lifetime. It sees it once in the production facility and when the manufacturer actually solders on the components, and that's it. Maybe a couple times, one on one side, one on the other side, who knows. But it goes through reflow oven, and that's it. And it should not be exposed to those temperatures ever again, technically. So some boards can withstand that, especially AM5s. We've done so many AM5s. The majority of them work. I've never seen AM5 flimsy, but 1151, I will likely remove it from my service because of that. It's very difficult to get the 1151 socket replaced because the boards are just not designed for that heat. Well, that's the joy of BGA work, especially on the motherboards. I don't recommend anyone getting into it. It's not a lot of money. It's a lot of problems. It's a lot of work. You really have to be passionate about BGA to actually even do these things. That's why no other shops offer that. I'm pretty much one of the only shops, or at the moment, the only shop on eBay that offers this service. From time to time, other shops will list this service, but they list it for, depending, but for like $100-150, but that's just kind of like a bench fee, and then you are charged accordingly to the board. So first you have to send the board for assessment and stuff, and then they quote you how much the socket replacement would be. In my case, it's a flat fee, but it comes with no guarantee. It will work or it won't work. We don't know. But around 80% of these do work. But it's usually the AM5 that have the best success. 1700s, 1800s, usually 1200s, depends. But 1151, it's not about the socket, it's about the board. That's it, fellas. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I shall see you guys in the next one.